Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are all staying safe in this crazy time. It feels so good to be back after taking a couple of weeks off to finish a always chaotic debate season. Now, many of you may be asking why this is the 7th installment of the Mental Takedown and where on earth did the 6th installment go? And given that I'm still relatively new to running a podcast and have never done anything like this before, of course, it was only a matter of time before stupidity and ego got in the way. Now, if you don't know anything about debaters, we have a huge ego. We always think we're right, because ultimately, we argue for a living. So, of course, our 6th episode, which was my favorite episode by far, with none other than Grant Leeth from Missouri, was hands down my favorite episode without even a doubt. Now, y'all know that I try to keep it to 30 minutes on these shows, but I couldn't contain myself in the episode with Grant, and clearly we had spoken for over an hour on so many different things. And Grant is the quintessential person I should have interviewed from the very beginning. And I'm not kidding when I say I'd give up all my other recordings to just get that one back. But, of course, my big debate ego, not believing that there was a pre-installed application to record FaceTime calls, decided that I had to go running around the App Store, downloading every single third-party application I could possibly find, and then that totally backfiring in my face because I literally only have 1 minute of an hour of pure podcast gold, which literally made me so sad. So the rest of the evening, literally, I spent like this. After 5 episodes, my show was done. You can't spend an hour of somebody's time, then say, oops, I messed up, so can we do it again? I mean, that was beyond me. But then, after sitting on it and being in denial and kicking myself 100 times over, I thought Grant had been through so much, and he dove so deep in that interview, that I couldn't let one recording mess up screw over the entire show. So next is the last memento that I have in the interview, which ironically is actually a decent bit of the interview because it's the first news, so to say, that anybody has ever dropped on my show. Grant Leeth at 141 is no more, and he's moving up.
So you don't know quite yet. So I guess, does that mean there's gonna be like a massive reshuffling? You probably don't have to reveal too much, but
The only differences will be 49, 57, 65, because it's me, Brock, Jarrett, and Mako.
Yep.
And Jarrett and Brock both have red shirts that they could use, and then the rest of it would just be kind of seeing what happens from there. So we got a lot of options on the plus side.
Good problem to have, no?
Yeah, definitely.
Fair enough. Well, I guess we'll get into the deeper stuff. Now, you have been through a lot, and you know,
So the 6th episode will always live in spirit and serve as a reminder to everybody else just how far stupidity and ego can take you. After mustering up the courage to tell Grant what had actually happened, he couldn't have been more kind and forgiving. He even offered that at some point down the road, just maybe, we would run it back, and he would give another hour of his time to this nuthead. So Grant, the 6th episode will always be waiting for you whenever you decide to come back. But I had to get over myself, and no one was going to feel sorry for me, because less than 24 hours later, I had an interview with the one and only Devin Schroeder, who was very insightful in his own right. Devin's got all the accolades you could possibly want. Big Ten finalist, All-American, you name it, he's got it. He even ran a marathon on a couple of minutes' notice. I don't know how many people can say they did that. And he's just super down to earth. And as with all my wrestlers, I'm very grateful that they took time out of their day to talk to me and answer my convoluted questions. This intro and story time has gone on way too long. Y'all are probably sick of seeing my face by now. So without further ado, of course, just roll the clip. And now, through the magic of the internet, we have senior Purdue 125-pounder Devin Schroeder joining us. How are we doing?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All good. And I guess, now that we've had quite a few months to reflect on everything that's gone down, and I certainly didn't expect when, Big Tens happened and everyone thought it was all normal. And now, given some time to reflect on it, how did kind of this whole situation play out, and how does that affect you just at large moving forward?
Yeah, it's weird. You focus on your whole goal is winning the national title it's a 265-day goal, like year on the clock, you're working towards it. So just have that snapped away in a matter of minutes when you find out, it's heartbreaking, and there's tears shed and stuff, and it's hard times that have been there. But then when you look in the bigger picture of things and everything else that's going on, there's people losing life. So it kind of puts into perspective at the end of the day, like wrestling, like it is our lives, but it is just a sport at the end. So it hurts losing your goals and everything that you work towards and strive towards. But at the end of the day, we're a human race, and you got to do what you got to do to protect and care for your loved ones. So look at the bigger picture sometimes.
And is that something that, like, finding your identity away from wrestling kind of before this happened, does that kind of help you come to that realization faster?
Yeah, for sure. Again, like wrestling is such a big part of my life and everyone around me, but it doesn't define who I am. And I think that's one thing I've learned growing up is as a kid, you're just wrestling, you want to win all the time, but as you learn to take losses, you learn like wrestling doesn't define you. You have like your faith, your family, your friends, your relationships, and that's what stables you at the end of the day. You lose your NCAA championships, and a lot of people lost their seasons, but you don't lose who you are and everything that we've accomplished. We don't lose that either. We still had a great season, and I'm lucky enough to have another one. So it's not the end of the world. I still have my family, my friends, and all the people that care to me. It's just one tournament. It sucks to lose it, but I still thankfully have another year, and I'm excited to keep working towards that goal.
Now, when you look back on, I guess, the fact that a season still happened, which is strange because, it's not that you missed out on an entire even portion of the season. It's just that, ironically, the most important tournament of the year was taken away. So how does that, when you go back and think of it, how does it compare to like the other years per se?
Oh yeah, I mean, compared to other years, it's tough because the year before I had a full season. Obviously, with NCAAs I 2-2, so I got to finish whole year, which was good, obviously. But this year was my best year yet, so I was really excited to the end of the year. And I guess even again in comparison, I'm thankful that like a lot of the spring athletes didn't even get a chance for part of it. There's part of I had two great teammates in Dylan Lighty and Christian Bruner, great leaders, and I'm thankful that we got to share some of our last matches together. And there's some teammates that will never get to like have that experience of sharing part of the last season together in the spring sports. So I'm good because Christian and Dylan are some of my best friends, and I grew up through the program. So I'm happy we had some great dual wins this year. We all had a good Big Ten tournament. So I'll cherish the year that we did have with those guys. We had a special group of guys this year forever, especially in wrestling.
I guess speaking of the team element of things, Purdue kind of like over the past few years has really grown into, a Big Ten powerhouse, whereas like before they really weren't.
Hmm.
And I guess and you've kind of seen that dynamic grow as you grew as an individual wrestler. I guess how does a different team dynamic change the way the team approaches things?
Yeah, I think a big thing is that just the expectation to compete for national titles, and we expect to be on the podium. And I think that's one thing that has changed since I've gotten there, and just with the coaching, what they preach to us, where we should be, and just the hard work we put in. You look at the lineup from me, 25 all the way up to heavyweight. It doesn't matter how good you are, how talented you are, but the expectation is that you're putting in the work and you're pushing yourself. We got 10 guys in there. We got 30 guys in there that are pushing hard, 10 that are step on the mat and reflect that. So I think that that's big, and that's what's caused the culture change. I think my first year we had 3 guys qualify, and when I redshirted my first year on campus, and the past 2 years we've had 8. So that's just phenomenal to turn around, and just the top end guys are way better now too. And it's just the expectation. We all buy in and push each other. So it's been great, and I've been happy and lucky to be a part of it and help change that culture and lead us in the right direction.
And I guess interestingly, you being a 25 pounder and kind of starting off every duel,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of is that a role that is cherished? And I do think like psychologically that there is some sort of trickle down effect for the rest of the duel. I guess how do you approach that role, and how is it different than like maybe on an odd duel you may be somewhere in the middle per se?
Yeah, I love starting off at 25. Purdue, we always try to, since I've been here, we've always tried to start off at 25 because coaches feel good with me on my weight, and just starting off the duel with the win, because I think it does carry over momentum. You get the crowd going on your side, and that's huge. But at the end of the day, you gotta be ready when you step out there and get ready, because there's coaches that will flip and want to start a lot of times 41, 49 this year, and that's fine either way. I'll be ready. I just get I get a little pumped when I get to start off the duel with the music after the national anthem, especially at home run out of the tunnel leading us. So I will start off at 25, but if they flip and it's not there, it's not a big deal. I'm still ready to go either way. But I do cherish that a little bit, take a little pride in starting the duel off.
And is that something that like the coaches mutually agree upon before the duel? So have there ever been like, because that could become a huge like psychological fight between the coaches kind of before the duel even starts.
Yeah. So if the coaches don't care, they just want to agree start up at 25, then you don't care, they'll start. But if the coach wants to start a different way, they'll flip the coin, and if it's whoever wins gets to choose the starting weight. So if we win, we choose whatever we want to start at, which I usually like start at 25, and then if the other team wins, then they would choose whatever weight they want. So yeah, so we don't know till weigh-ins though. So it's kind of a fun thing that they do that they had introduced this year. So it's fun. So it's random, but
Oh, this is a new concept, new idea, little psychological warfare before the duel.
yeah, yeah. They just started the coin toss this year. Before they started at 25, unless if a coach wanted to request a random weight, then they would draw a random weight. But now they flip a coin, and the winner gets to choose the weight.
Ooh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I guess like when you wrestle, what are your like goals? How do you approach goals at large throughout the season and goals kind of match to match between weeks and months?
So I think I made a big jump from my sophomore year to slash in my junior year, because my sophomore year was my first year starting full time in the lineup, and I was just really trying to win. And I think I held myself back a lot of times. I would win matches by a few points where I could have been picking up bonus points and techs, and that was a a lot of what my coaches were preaching to me, like, you're so much better than these kids. You can push way harder. And I just worked a lot on just scoring points, not worrying about how tired I was or anything in the off season. And I think that translated a lot into me picking up bonuses and techs and just being way more confident on my feet. And so I try to carry that mentality into a match basis, just try to score as many points as I can and try to whoop on kids instead of just winning by 1 or 2. And then I think just building on that helped me for the end of the year. I think we take it week by week, match by match. And obviously the goal is always national championship. We never forget that, the match at a time. And I think that mentality, match at a time, with the end goal of national championship in mind, had us ready at the end of the year. I think we finished 5th. The Big Tens, we 2 finalists first time since like 50s or 60s, something like that. It's been a while. It was our best tournament in a while. And I think that mentality is really what helped us get there. So
I guess what's interesting is, you work every day to try and become a national champion, and you just work in the room over and over and over again. And then you have a moment at some point in time that makes you realize that it's actually happening. Does that process kind of restart every year, or is that kind of, built upon your growth at large?
there are certain points where you get like bursts of confidence at maybe after like a big match or something. You're like, you feel good about yourself and your goals. And there's also times, obviously for every high there's lows, but I think just it's the consistency that helps you pick up gains. I think no matter what, at the end of the year, we have an end of the year meeting, and from my redshirt year where I didn't even compete in the varsity lineup, so I was in and out my freshman year, sophomore year, the goal never changes. From the end of the year to the first day after nationals, it's still national champ. So in your lifestyle and your decisions you make every day reflect that. Every day is a 365-day goal. So the goal never changes. And there are definitely moments where it feels more real. Like after a big match, you feel good about yourself, for sure. But I think when you live with your goal in college, even in high school, your whole life, it just becomes part of how you live and how you work every day towards it.
I guess when you wrestle, how much like intuition do you use compared to, let's say, film or practice or pre-planned ideas, and what are kind of your approaches to that realm? Because I've heard different things from different people.
Yeah, so obviously in the Big Ten, you have like your duels and you know who you're gonna wrestle, and everyone in the Big Ten knows each other. So there are in matches certain things you key on and you'll work on throughout the week if you know someone's gonna hit a certain move or whatever. But when you get to NCAA tournament, there's 33 guys and you can't watch film for 32 people. So you don't win national titles queuing on certain guys to moves. And you do for sure in duels, you work on them. And if you are wrestling a certain kind of tournament, you work on a couple things or talk about it with your coach. But you don't win national titles in March queuing on changing 5 practices for one match in January, if that makes sense. You have to work on getting better, not necessarily stopping how to beat one guy. If you focus too much on one guy every week, I believe you'll lose a lot of progress where you could be working on your own moves and get better yourself.
So being a little bit more holistic than, I guess, looking at the schedule at large or
exactly.
whatnot.
You're a better wrestler, focus on yourself and think about what you're going to do rather than focusing on stopping another guy.
Well, then I guess that kind of leads into like the Big Ten being the gauntlet that it is, hands down the toughest conference. Like the media coverage and everything like backs that up. I guess having, especially with the people that like are also juniors and have been with you for 4 years from other schools, and you guys wrestle each other every year. I wonder if there's any like psychological impacts when it comes to like previous results, or is that something that you, at this point, you have been able to ignore in a way?
I mean, wrestling is a big what do you call it? Just like mindset sport, having the right mindset. And for sure, I mean, everyone knows each other. We've all wrestled each other for the most part. Obviously, there's some guys that you miss year in and year out, but we've almost all wrestled each other. So for sure, but I'm sure guys think about that, and it's in the back of your mind. But I try to keep a pretty good job of just thinking next match. You know, past results don't win you next matches. And our coaching staff and team has carried that mindset really well. Just because you've lost to a guy or beat a guy before doesn't mean that's what's going to happen next. And so I'm not sure how other teams carry, but that's how I always think about it. Look forward is I'm next match forward. You wrestle guys in the conference, Big Tens, NCAAs from the same teams, and so you got to be ready every time. You know, so for sure. But some of that's there. Like this happened last time, so you work on it, and sometimes you see guys wrestle each other so many times throughout the year, different tournaments too. But next match, you got to keep the right mindset.
I guess, how does the coaching staff, like, given that the sport is so much mental, and this is kind of the point of the show, how does the coach attack trying to measure mental toughness? Because that is difficult to point at specifically. Is that something that only the coach understands in a way that sometimes can get lost to the general public, per se?
I think I want to say just the coach, because I think if you're in the room, you know, if you've wrestled before, you understand what mental toughness is. Especially in our room, we understand it, and you can face mental toughness and get tougher by facing it every day, putting yourself through adversity in the practice room, in the weight room, running. You can find your ways, and if you face mental toughness challenges every day in the room, and we do, then you get a lot stronger, and that'll lead to gains. When you face adversity on the mat, it's a lot easier when you face them every day in the room. Sum it all
Um, I guess then, having been at school and at Purdue for 4 years, how have you taken kind of the other elements away from wrestling and kind of applied it to wrestling?
The other elements, just as in like
Of college, or like trying to balance it all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I got to college, I was 18 years old, and now I'm almost 23. So when you think 18 years old, you think of a high school kid. And you think of 23, you think of like a grown man, almost a young adult. So I think just growing up and becoming more responsible for my actions and being a young leader instead of a young kid, and being a young man around younger kids is huge. And I think how you train and how you live, it reflects both your lifestyles off the mat and your lifestyles on the mat. It's going to be really hard to keep them separate. You can't be lazy on the mat and a hard worker off the mat. If you're a hard worker off the mat, there's a good chance you're going to be a hard worker on the mat. So as I've grown older, I've realized that a lot of times it's not being separate. You just have to buy all in, work your tail off on the mat, and be a straight hard worker in the classroom, in your family, with your relationships. They cross over so much, and that's the thing that I think I've realized the most growing up. And so just in all aspects of life, just working hard and being straight edge. So
I guess, and given that, this will be hopefully your fifth and final year on the team, we'll see what happens. This thing doesn't show any signs of stopping for now, but we can only hope. But I guess, how has your role on the team changed going into your fifth year compared to, like, let's say, freshman year, when You said you didn't even start, so.
For sure. I look at myself as a leader, and I think I've learned to be more vocal too. I've always worked hard since I stepped on campus, and I think we're seeing more. The leaders are becoming younger and younger. That's one thing I wish that I could have done at an earlier age. Is been more vocal and not been afraid to be a leader. And lead by example, maybe get after some people at a younger age, and not wait until maybe last year or this year to do so. And I think you're seeing that more and more, and I'm excited because you see that on our team more and more. We see younger guys leading by example, not wait until they're juniors and seniors. And I think that's one thing that I've realized, but it's taken me a while to get there. And that's if one thing that I would like share and give advice, I would say you don't have to wait till you're an old man like me, be 21, 22, junior, senior, to do that. You can lead as a freshman. As soon as you step on campus, you can be a leader, get after people, and get better. That's what we need, and that's how you change teams around, what's happened here at Purdue. So
Is that kind of like some of the hierarchical barriers have been taken down, and like people not being afraid to lead as soon as they come, and that's more of an expectation rather than kind of a burden, so to speak?
yeah, and I think a lot of it's just a confidence thing. Sometimes people are afraid to lead because they don't have the results yet or something like that. But you don't need to be a great wrestler to be a great leader, and that's something our coaching staff talks about a lot. And you think people won't respect you if you don't win, but that's not how it is at all. I'm not a good leader because I'm good at wrestling. I'm a good leader because I work hard and I do the right things. And I think that's where our team's realizing more and more that you don't have to be top 5 and All-American in the country to be a good leader. We got leaders for freshmen to seniors, again 25 to heavyweight, first string to third string, and I think that's what's shifting the culture and helping us push each other and take that next step. And I think that's what will help us take the next step from where we are now. So that will be next year, hopefully. And then even after I'm gone, there's these younger guys are going to be killers, and I'm excited to watch them after I'm long gone and seeing this culture keep growing and improving.
And I guess to wrap things up, this is it. It's your last go at it coming up next year. And I guess especially given your class, who maybe thought they had some more time before this whole situation went down, does the urgency like shoot through the roof even more than maybe we would have thought, that now it's now or never?
Yeah, exactly. We have in our restroom, we've got a big, huge hourglass with sign. It's like a poster, and it's just a big hourglass with sand dripping down, and it says, "Time is running out. Do it now." And I think that's something that we decided you don't have to wait 2 years to do it. That's when we decided, like, we're winning right now. This is our year. We don't have to wait. And that's how you're starting to see young guys. Kendall Coleman was a redshirt freshman in the Big Ten Finals this year. First team All-American voted. He was top 8 seed. And you're starting to see that up and down the lineup. Thomas Pinola was a 97-pounder, and he bumped up the heavyweight helper team. He was top 20 in the country, had huge wins up and down throughout. And at the end of the year, was come along. He's going to have a great NCAA. So I think that's what you're starting to see in our team, is that you don't need to wait 2-3 years. You can do it right now. And then I'm excited. So, yeah, there is urgency, but there's always been urgency. We expect to win. The day you step on campus, there's no point in making excuses or saying I'm too young. If you step on campus, put your shoes on, you should expect to win at Purdue.
I guess I always end with a lighthearted question. When and how did you get the idea to run a marathon on some random weekday?
I was working at a golf course, and I was mowing the lawn that morning, and I was like, I'm gonna go for a run after. I was like, what workout am I gonna do? I was like, I'll go for a run. I was like, I'm gonna go for like a long run. I haven't gone for a long run. I was like, now that I think about it, I've never ran more than like 4 miles. I was like, I wonder how far I could run. I was like, you guys think I could run a marathon? And like some guys were like, no, bro. Like, you've never even run before. I was like, I bet I could if I like had to, like gun in my head. So I was like mental toughness. I was just thinking like if I had my life depended on it, I could do it, and that's just what I kept thinking. So I did it. I had to take a couple breaks. There's like I had to get water, so I stopped by my house a couple times. But I did it, and I don't know if I'll ever do it again. It's pretty hard. So
I guess once you tell your buddies that you think you could do it, you kind of have to do it at that point, right?
exactly. And at first I was like, I'm gonna see if I do it. And then my roommate, Christian, he took a picture and posted it to Twitter. I was like, now I have to do it, or else I'm gonna look like a phony. So it's good. It's good. It's good. All good. I'm glad I did it. Glad I did it.
Well, thank you so much. You put up with me long enough, and I'll let you get going. And all I can say is best of luck for your senior year.
No, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Take
Thank
care.
you so much. You have a good one.
Thanks, you too, man.
I hope y'all enjoyed the 7th installment of the Mental Takedown. As always, thank you so much for all the support, and don't be shy in doing all that influencer stuff. Following the Instagram, subscribing to the YouTube, yada yada yada, you've heard it here. This isn't breaking news. As always, thank you so much to Devin for doing this show, and best of luck in his senior campaign. I promise I won't go on a hiatus again without telling you guys in advance, and do not worry because I will be cranking out episodes at a faster and more furious rate than ever before. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always, and have a good rest of your day.